There are moments when life as you know it completely falls apart. Divorce, loss, failure, heartbreak, financial collapse. It's 2 a.m., you can't sleep, and everything feels like it's over. But here's the truth. This is not the end. I'm Christy Zlatkus, and this is a show where we talk about the strategies that turn heartbreak, loss, and failure into success, and share the real stories of people who've done it. Because no matter how dark it feels right now, your story isn't over. Hello, and welcome to our next episode of This Is Not the End. Today we have with us Erik and Elliot. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
I am, Ellie's letting me go first. I am Erik. I'm one of the co-founders of Empirical 360.
And I'm Elliot, the other co-founder. And if you can't tell, we are brothers.
Yes.
You don't look anything alike.
Yeah.
No, I'm teasing. And for anybody who doesn't know, Erik and Elliot are the marketing gurus behind everything we are doing now at Z Family Law. We love working with them. I cannot say enough good things about them. So if you are a family law firm and you are not working with a marketing company, and you're not in the DC area, please call Empirical 360. But I have really enjoyed getting to know you guys over the past about year and a half. One of the things that I love doing is talking to you guys about your own entrepreneurial journey. We all learn hard lessons in different ways, and some of the ones that you guys have told me about have really inspired me in hard moments, and I'm hoping that they can inspire our listeners. So first, I know you just said that Empirical 360, and I said it's a marketing company, but can you tell me a little bit more about what Empirical 360 does so that when we talk about the lessons you learned, we can figure out how it helped you get there?
Yeah. So, Erik, if you want, I can do it. We are a digital agency focused on family law firms exclusively. And so what we do to help them is we coach them through their sales process, and then we do their online marketing, right? So like Google Ads, PPC, all that type of stuff. And so we are a service-based business, heavy client facing.
Awesome. All right. So how did you guys decide to become entrepreneurs and why?
I could do that version, Erik, and then Erik can tell you the bad stuff that's happened, right? So how I first got into it, Erik was already kind of getting into it. Erik was getting into software development. I guess this was maybe 10 plus years ago. And he started working at a warranty company, right? So the calls that you guys get that are really annoying, that was us pretty much, right? So Erik was their marketing person, and he actually built that program from the ground up, which is actually crazy because I think, Erik, what were you, like 18 at the time or something
18,
crazy?
19 years old.
Right. So really, really young, started building out the marketing department there. And he was doing things that were never done in that industry before, which is like Google Ads, like as we do it today. And he like pioneered their digital space. And what was cool, because the reason I want to tell this is he won't brag about himself, is he built out their entire marketing stuff. He built out their CRM with our dad posting the leads there. And so he built out the whole infrastructure. And what was cool is they were getting such great success off of it that they actually went to a private equity firm. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the name, but rhymes with Schmeg Schmorman. Anyway, they're a private equity firm, and they brought Erik, which was crazy, right? Because he's like an 18-year-old kid, and they secured a $5 million investment specifically for the marketing there, right? So then we got a lot of experience. At this same time, I'm trying to become a day trader, speaking of failures, and I'm failing miserably at that, right? So like the success rate there is 1%, and it wasn't me. So I'm watching Erik do all this cool stuff, and I'm like, dang, I should probably learn marketing, right? So that's how I get involved, and then we learn all the stuff through this company. And because we have so much money to spend, we learn really, really fast, right? We're spending, $1 million plus a month at some point. And then people start asking us like, hey, will you do our marketing? Hey, we do our marketing, right? And so then that's when the agency started. And it wasn't legal specific. It wasn't family law specific. It was just, we'll take anybody that wants to give us money. And that's kind of how the journey started. So Erik kicked it off, and I just tagged along because he was doing well with it.
Oh, that sounds pretty like a wild ride. So I'm guessing that you learned a lot of hard lessons on the way.
Too many.
Even there were some hard lessons before that. We actually did like a graveyard presentation to our clients of all the failures pre-empirical. We called empirical like our sploosh. If you holes, it was like finally the family's breakthrough. But Elliot, I always think it was one video. There's Elliot. They created this thing called an arm and anchor. It was like a push pull for a kayak. So it was like an anchor for a kayak, and he had like a whole YouTube video. They tried to like sell like the products to Dick's Sporting. It was a complete failure. And there was a lot of failures just like that. We had like a little string that we tied to a skateboard with our older brother to try to like, keep it attached to your feet like a snowboard, all the things. So we failed like 100 times before Empirical, and Empirical was the first kind of, hit there.
And when each time that you failed, when you had this graveyard of failures, why didn't you just stop?
I would say, and this is why I respect solo entrepreneurs so much, like anyone that is doing it on their own, is we at least had each other to like bear the loss pretty much. and we would shrug it off a lot easier because someone's there with you. And that's, to me, why I respect people doing it on their own so much more. Like, it's got to be really, really tough to not have somebody in your corner that, and even if you have a spouse, they still don't understand the nitty gritty, hateful problems you're dealing with. I mean, they can get there, but no one has the same context for me that Erik has, because we've just been through every single problem, right? Other than our dad, who's also a partner, right? But for us two, it's really like we're both in the foxhole together. So it's made that easier, I would say, a lot easier. Otherwise, if it was alone, I would say it'd be significantly harder for us.
Yeah. It's like
Someone who works with a lot of business owners, I will say about the spouse part, if they're not also an entrepreneur, I think it sometimes is even harder for them to understand. And for you as the business owner, you feel so responsible because your gambles are so big. Your gambles with your time, your gambles with your money, your gambles with how many things are we all personally responsible for with our leases and everything else if it all goes to hell in a handbasket. And that can be a lot of pressure and terrifying.
Yeah, for sure. I think, like I said, even if you don't have like luckily for us, right, a brother, but somebody that truly has your best interest, right, which is really hard to find these days, sadly, that, they care and they like to see you winning, I think is also important. But finding somebody like that you can at least give context to, generally, I would say is probably a mentor would be the person, but that's what I would say is the key for us in those failures.
So you have your graveyard of failures. Tell us about one. What is one that sticks out in your mind as, holy crap, we messed up, or holy crap, everything went to hell in a handbasket and the world was really in a dark place? What was it?
There's two. There's one is like, it's like the perfect example that the grass is greener on the other side. So we were a marketing company and we had a client. It was an e-commerce business. They were selling bridesmaids robes online, pretty small budget, like $1,000 to $2,000 a month. And when they would spend money, they would get their cost to acquire a sale was really low. They had a great ticket value, just everything seemed great. It's like they're generating a 10 plus X ROI on Google ads and it's scalable. And we were actually asking the client, like, why aren't you scaling your marketing campaigns and getting more out of this? And they told us that they just don't want to be in the business anymore. They don't want to run this. They don't like it. And they want to sell the business. And we asked them at the time, like, how much are you looking to sell the business for? This seems like a really attractive business. And they told us $70,000. At the time, we did not have $70,000 in our business account. There's no way we could buy a business. So enter the bad decision that we made. We took a business loan, not just a business loan with like terrible conditions, like not an SBA loan. I think they charged us weekly and there was like weekly compounding interest on there. Like it was
it one that was like connected to your checking account? They just automatic.
Yeah, we got wrecked with this one. Like the amount of interest and penalties, just a horrible loan. But Ellie and myself, we were both sold at the time that this was the best decision for us and we can get some mailbox money out of e-commerce because what we're doing and working so hard for a marketing company is so hard and that looks so easy, classic. And our giant failure is when we looked at all of their numbers, because we were so inexperienced, we forgot there's operating expenses that they weren't paying because the owners were running the businesses. So as soon as you hired help to fulfill the orders, that help immediately set us unprofitable. And when we scaled, this was close to like the 2020 timeframe, the robes that we would purchase were getting more and more expensive because of like export fees.
Oh God.
And so we actually, we purchased the thing. We started doing the bridesmaid robes with Ellie and myself used to even like monogram them. We had like our wives do the photo session. We were so excited. But then all of a sudden we had this giant unprofitable mess on our hands that's taking away from our main thing, which is Empirical 360. So, giant failure, a big I told you so because our dad was against it, but he still fully supported us. And then at the end, we were actually able to sell it for what we bought it for. But in between the time when we were operating it, we did lose a lot of money. Giant failure and a great lesson that sometimes just keep doing what you're doing is the best option in front of you.
Yeah. And also like we hadn't been punched in the face that many times yet at that point. We were arrogant to think that, of course, we can easily run this. If these two can run it, we can easily do it because we're so skilled, blah, blah, blah. And that was not the case. We just ran into so many problems with that one. And doing two things at once proved again that it's really tough. So, and at that point, we didn't even have like kids or like nothing, right? So it was just a disaster.
You were all in and it was still a shit show.
Giant disaster.
We were so naive at the time, getting a $70,000 loan felt like a flex.
Yeah. We have a picture of us with the check thinking we were cool.
Please send it. We can put it in the episode.
Erik has it somewhere, but it was not a good investment. We probably on that thing lost at least over $100,000, and that was when we did not have $100,000. Like that's a lot of money to lose anytime.
Yes.
But it was just a real, like, since then, honestly, probably in a bad way, we've been afraid to do two things at once for a long time, because that one hurt us pretty bad. So yeah, we try to be very focused anyway.
So you said two. What was the other one that stuck out?
The other one, and I remember this one, is seared into my mind, because this is back when we thought, like, we were obsessed when we were an agency, because other agencies would have these really nice offices, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of how they would sell people. They'd bring you to the office, they'd show you the cool coffee machine, and you'd be so wowed by the office, you'd sign up. Things have changed quite a bit these days, right? But I still think that plays a part. But anyway, so we were getting a new office because we were like, the key to growing is getting a new office. And we were so preoccupied with making the office look awesome. So I remember my biggest priority for the day was like finding a coffee machine and a tap for coffee. We spent, really dumb amounts of money on a coffee bar, custom built, coffee machines, like floors. And we went all out on this office. And I remember it was so clear in my head, because this was when COVID was hitting and the news was happening right there. And we were talking to the construction people, and they were like, Dow Jones hitting all-time lows, like shutdown is imminent. And we bought this office. We signed a 6-year lease, total disaster. And literally overnight, everything shut down. And when that happened, we lost all of our clients, because all of our clients were medical and insurance, and they couldn't come in person anymore. So like overnight, we just lost everything, right? We were at negative, $50,000 a month in the hole. We had payroll for the first time, and we didn't know what to do. So that was probably that was a defining moment for our company, like one of them for sure. And luckily we clawed our way out of it, but that one really, really hurt. That was tough.
I identify with that one a lot. I signed a lease for Z Family Law's office space in November of 2019. The build out started in January of 2020.
Yep.
And yes, I upgraded the floors, which I already had the contract for. And I, bought all the office furniture that was supposed to arrive. I had a sublease tenant lined up, but we hadn't actually signed it for our old space. And then it all shut down. And I went, and to be honest, I don't think foot traffic ever came back in the same way.
No.
And
Is
we were
that where you're
always
at
a
now?
version of hybrid, but it never came back in the same way.
No, it really didn't. And a lot of those companies that were our clients, they never recovered from that either. We were, that was back when we were working with insurance call centers because of our experience prior. And so we'd have these call centers, they were, 100, 200 seat call centers, but really close quarters. They were great clients because they paid amazing. But when you have a client that represents 80% of your revenue and they're like, hey guys, we got to close, we're like, uh-oh. And that was a tough time. That was actually, I think that was the only time that we've had to like lay off for like, we just can't afford you. I think we had to lay off one person. At that time we were a small team, right? But like we had to lay off, I think, one person, or
It was a contractor.
and we were honestly, Erik and I weren't taking pay for like months at that point. We were like trying to have everybody survive, and we just didn't make it. We were like, we had to make the hard decision. So yeah, that was really tough, really tough. And the guy was super nice about it, super gracious. It was tough. It was horrible all around.
So in that moment, that dark moment, what were you most afraid that people would think?
I think back to what I was thinking. I don't know.
Luckily, I don't think we really cared what people would think.
Yeah, I don't remember. I would say that it was so like adrenaline motivated. I don't think we were thinking that. It was more so, how the heck are we going to survive?
I think our one redeeming quality, because these are just two failures. There's been many more, and probably more that were even more expensive failures, but we just go straight to offense. Like, what can we control? So like literally, I remember we actually have a recording. It's on our YouTube channel. So we're like, the only thing we can do in this situation is sell our way out, like to survive. And like immediately, I think Elliot and myself quickly, we sacrifice our own pay. So like, we got to support our people. We got to take, like, we only had 4 or 5 employees, but me and Elliot just stopped our pay immediately, stopped all hard cost, like depleted our savings and all of that stuff. So, we're quick to do that because, we can easily control that. And then we just got on offense. So we read Russell Brunson's book. Which one was it, Elliot? What was it?
.com Secrets.
.com Secrets.
Good one.
And we're like, let's just follow this to the T. And so it had us pick a niche. And so it's right during COVID, we're like, let's pick legal. And during this time, right after we read this book, and we did it as a team, we all read the book, we all talked about how we're going to implement it. We had to figure out money for ads, and we started running ads on Facebook. We still run like a version of the ad. It's like, hey, divorce attorneys, if you spend $2,000 on Google and you get $50 leads and you close 10% of those leads, you make this much money. It was just like walking through the same stuff we walk through now. And We added on at the time, one of our clients, still now Christopher from New Leaf, we added on a lot of family law attorneys at the time. We didn't know it that we should have been niching just to family law then, but that saved us. So then
Yeah,
we started.
it was literally one Facebook ad saved us. Like that one funnel away thing, it bailed us out. Because at that time, right, Christy, that's when family law kind of took off. Well, depending on where you're at, COVID kind of made family law take off, and we just got super lucky, right? We rode away. We didn't even know it was going to happen, and it really hit for us. But
Well,
yeah,
for
that
me
changed
with
our business.
COVID, I said this in episode 3, that's when I learned to digitally market. Because before then, I mostly relied on referrals. I would go to lunch with people. I would go to coffee with people. I had my little Rolodex. I had the spreadsheet. How long has it been since I had, lunch with these people? And when I would do that, it was almost predictable. I would go to lunch, we'd get a referral. I'd go to lunch, we'd get a referral. I'd go to coffee, we'd get a referral. And you couldn't go to coffee with people. And Zoom ones were not the same. And I had some really weird Zoom coffee dates with colleagues where they were doing things like drinking in the middle of the day. And I'm like, what is this? So for me, I had to pivot and learn how to do this online thing. I had no idea. And yeah, I got taken by a couple snake oil salesmen at first who were like, oh, I can get you leads for this many. And I can guarantee you, if you pay me $3,000, you will have 30 leads. And I
Yeah.
paid them $3,000 and got no leads. It can be crazy, but that was one of my big lessons. You guys, and I are very, very similar because I played all in at that point. I did 6 webinars in 3 weeks. I had a guest on each and every single one of them. We were posting online every single day. I didn't know what we were doing, but we were going to do it anyway. I hosted lessons to teach people how to use Zoom because I had already been using it for years, but so many lawyers hadn't. So I was like, you want to learn Zoom? I will teach you Zoom. Like, come in and do this. As much as we could put out there, we did. And it was activity begets activity. And I still really, really believe that. Now, did I do everything perfectly? No. I actually probably over activitied it, and I didn't go about it in a logical, methodical, thought out way. And that was also a lesson that I kind of had to learn. But from you guys, from reading your book, all of that, what lessons did you learn that anyone at home going through a really hard time right now could learn? Besides, go get that book. It's a good one.
Well, I think the power of niching. That was our first time picking a niche. And actually before then, there were some micro failures. Before then, we were trying to pick a niche because we read the book. It's called like 7-Figure Agency. It's like how to become a 7-figure marketing agency. And they always said pick a niche. And so we were between some of our existing clients. Like we tried to pick insurance, legal, medical, and within medical, like a few different sub niches there. And so that did bail us out. Niching during that time really bailed us out. And then I would say after that, what do you think, Elliot?
I mean, I think, like you said, if you sit there and think, you're just gonna like die pretty much. You just gotta go. Pretty much just start doing stuff. And then, like we actually use this example when we talk to clients, right? But because we both do, mixed martial arts stuff, but when you're winning, you can be calm. But when you're losing, it's time to go and scramble. And so I think when you're in a spot where you don't know what to do, it's just like, you just gotta go. Really. And then, the nice thing about that is you don't think because you're just doing. And then it makes it a little easier, I think, because you're not sitting there like, my life is ending and this and that, right? You're just doing.
You
And
don't
then
have time to sit there and think those thoughts. You
you
got to
don't
get
have
stuff
time.
done now.
Yep.
It was also a great example. Prior to COVID, most of our clients were large clients, big clients. Like a sale wasn't something that happened to our agency monthly. And during that period, we had a lot of sales in a short amount of time. So kind of it really instilled the sales cure all kind of mindset. Like if you're getting sales, you can survive anything, even a downturn of negative $50,000 per month. You can survive that if you're getting sales. And so getting some sales and getting on offense, and even during time where we had no money, had to spend money on ads to get the sales, was what we had to do during that time period.
So here's one for you, because I struggle with this. Now, I'm not one who's going to sit there with analysis paralysis. I have lots of others on my team who will do that for me, who get the analysis paralysis and want to analyze every single thing before we make a move. I tend to be like, let's just go and we'll learn things as we go. I don't think either's better or worse. Quite frankly, I think you need both. I joke that I'm the one that's the gas. I will drive the car right off the cliff. I need not one brake person. I need a couple to hold me back. Actually, 3 of them at this point to hold me back. But, you do need some analysis. But one of the things that I had to learn during that period is how do you differentiate the action and panic? Because as I said, I did action, but I didn't really do it in a methodical, thought out, this action will lead to this way. And I wish I had done just a little more analysis. So how do you walk that line from panic to progress?
Good question. Dang. I mean, I would say like if I'm starting now, if I had to start from zero, I would probably go look at what's working for other people and then just do that. I would not reinvent the wheel, and ideally try and find somebody that's done it and just say, tell me exactly what to do and do exactly what they say.
Yeah.
I wouldn't reinvent the wheel. But then we actually did a lot of that. We did a lot of crazy stuff. Lots of it didn't pan out. I think the important thing is for at least now reflecting back on, remember the treasure boxes, Eric, we did? So we brought these treasure boxes to dentists. They were really cool, like treasure boxes. And then we did like cases for lawyers. So we took them to like 10 to find our niche, and none of it worked. But I think if you just don't quit, something will hit eventually. It's just a numbers game. We're gamblers at heart. So like, if you just keep going and you don't quit, eventually something will hit. But I think recognizing when it hits and to then get really focused is where it counts. We didn't do that, by the way. We didn't get really focused. We still stayed unfocused. But now looking back, that's what I would say is like, when you find the thing that hits and know that everything can hit, just do it all the way once you find it. But just don't quit, really, is the hard part.
Even before you do anything, like before even taking action, knowing what success or failure looks like, and then knowing that actual success or failure isn't typically binary. So like this is straight from that guy, we love Alex Ramosi, but success or failure isn't binary. It's just a continuum. So to what extent are we failing or succeeding? That's really important, especially because if you're trying to get out of a cash flow crunch and you're doing some sort of new marketing, if you don't know what success looks like, you may succeed and then quit accidentally. Like if you don't know that you can afford $1,000 to pay for a customer, you may spend $200 and then quit.
Yeah. To put numbers on that, to give you during that COVID time, those were like the glory days, even for family law. Like we were getting clients, we were acquiring them at probably like $1,000 to acquire a customer. And now that number is like 20 times higher for us. And if I had known that back then, we just didn't know. We didn't know what was working, what was not
Sure.
working. We just had no idea. So we just we're like, hey, this is kind of going good, but let's pull back. It's kind of slowed down a little bit. But we just didn't know that like that's what happens in a market, and it's going to get more competitive. But that's, I think, why people sometimes will fail completely, is because they just quit and they didn't pay attention to the leading indicators.
I don't think that sometimes. I think, and my business coach, who's also going to be on the show, Luis, he tells me you don't fail until you stop.
Yeah.
Like it's not done. It's not a real failure until you stop. As long as you keep going, you're just learning a new lesson and learning a new lesson. And that's a mindset I really try hard to adopt, that the only failure is stopping.
And it's to what extent are you failing? It's never like, okay, it failed, it succeeded. It's to what extent are we succeeding? Like, are you close? Are you far away? And then it just becomes like, okay, if you're running a marketing campaign, like for you, okay, we're getting leads. All right, so that's check one. Or if we're getting leads, we're getting appointments, check two. It's like, okay, we're getting appointments, but they're not showing up. So now we know where the problem is. And
Oh, yeah.
we fix that problem, then we do succeed. So it's never like it failed, it worked. It's to what extent is it working or failing, and how can we get it there? And is what we're doing to get it there worth it, is like the big question.
Well, we touched on this just a little bit earlier because all of us have talked about times where we couldn't take a paycheck ourselves because our team needed it, and that sucks. But I also believe that's what we signed up for when you took on employees. So high performers and entrepreneurs often carry the heaviest private burdens. During some of these dark times, during some of these times where things weren't going the way you thought, what were some of your private burdens? Because I know, at least talking about them for me and with some of my other entrepreneur friends, it makes me feel less alone.
Yeah. Well, there was one time every time I go there, I take a picture of it. So I was at Disney's Boardwalk with my wife. It was 2018. We had one client that would sometimes pay us up to $40,000 a month. We were a small company at the time, so that was big money for us. And we lost that client in 2018. I think it was either November or December. I remember the spot because I was on vacation. I get the email, the termination of services email, and it was like, oh crap, like our business, like that was all of our revenue pretty much. We had like a few other small clients. So everything fell apart at that moment. And it was just a good lesson to, not have all your eggs in one basket. But I mean, during that moment, it wasn't that bad just because, again, like Elliot said, we had each other. Like we just talked through it. We got on offense. If he had panicked, I probably would have panicked, but we both just didn't really panic about it. It's like, okay, we'll just kind of carry on and solve the next problem.
I think private burdens, you mean like that no one is willing to talk about, like the harder stuff, like obviously losing clients suck. But I think recently for me, what's been tough is, right, I have younger kids now, and when we would travel or I'd be away for a bit, right, you come back and they're saying new words and they look different. It's like in like a week time frame that would happen.
Yeah.
And that I think is really tough when you have to put in the hours to the business, is trying to balance that. I think that's been one of the harder things that, I don't think enough people talk about it, because everybody on social media, what really irritates me is like, oh my gosh, I'm doing all this cool stuff and like, whatever. And the family's so supportive and it's so cool. And they are, but it's also very hard, I think, on the entrepreneur to see your kid come back and say a couple different words. You're like, damn, I missed those. And like now
Yeah.
they're pronouncing it correctly. I missed that, right? Like that I think is really tough. That's more of a, nobody talks about that stuff. They just talk about cool top line stuff. And to me, that's been it's been thrown into more relief only because I have the measuring stick of like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing my son grow up so much faster. So that's something that's been crazy to watch.
And that was actually, so one of the times, it was either the time that I was talking about at the boardwalk where we lost a client, or it was another time. I really can't remember the specific dates, but that was a period, like Christy, like you were saying, where owners, you just don't take pay. And that was a period, I remember it was like almost 6 months where me and Elliot weren't taking pay. And Elliot was getting married too. That's tricky. I mean, you're about to move in together and all these things, start a new life. That was stressful. I remember that was really stressful.
Yeah. That's
That's
when you just lie to your wife. No, I'm just kidding. As a
No,
divorce attorney,
no,
that's probably
divorce
not a good
attorney.
idea. Right?
Yeah, that's when you lie to your wife and then you talk to Z Family Law.
Yeah. And then you need representation after that.
No, but it is hard. For me, there's a shame around it when you're not doing as well. I mean, there are times that I was making plenty of money. I could do all kinds of stuff. And there are times I wasn't. And those times, are so stark and so different that there's a shame and hard to do that. And when you make a choice that sounded like a good idea at the time, like maybe you buy a robe company or you hired an employee that seemed like a really fantastic fit, and oh my God, everything they did was awful and it was so bad, and getting rid of them cost attorney's fees and other fun things, there's a shame to that, at least for me. And that to me can be hard, to go to family parties or family holidays. I see you online, everything's blah, blah, blah. And inside,
Oh, yeah.
I know what my profit line was this month, and it wasn't in the positive, and that hurts.
Yeah. One is funny on that, like the shame cycle. So I observed this. So we do jujitsu, right? And I go do tournaments when I wasn't prepared and I just get my butt kicked. But anyway, I go do a tournament and then I'd get beat. And I'm like, what the hell's the point of this? It's so stupid. And I would go through this little pity party cycle of like, I'm done competing. And then I'd be like, you know what? I'm just going to train way harder. And then I ended up training way harder. So I was like, if I just skip that stupid part of me being like, what's the point of this? And just skip to training harder. And you just skip that cycle, and eventually you just get good at skipping the painful part, I think. But I think the same thing in business is when something goes wrong, you're just like, you can sit there and be like, damn, like, is this worth it? Like, why am I like, and then you just skip, okay, what am I going to do to fix it? And I feel like the action just takes all the thought out of it, which I think is, maybe it's not good, but I think it helps.
No, I think it's good. Honest to God, I think it's good. And that's my way too. As long as I'm doing something, as long as I have something to do, I don't have to sit there and think shame. I don't have to sit there and think failure. I don't have to sit there and analysis paralysis. Action for me is the answer. Now, I want to be more and have been more intentional about my action as opposed to just activity for the sake of activity. Sitting still doesn't solve anything. It doesn't teach you anything. There's no lesson in it. It's not good for momentum. It's not good for how you feel. I don't think it's good for morale on a team either, quite frankly. Okay, so what non-negotiable value anchors your leadership today?
What do you mean by non-negotiable value?
So I was recently on your podcast. Thank you for having me. And one of the things that I said that I learned that I wish I had learned earlier on is holding people accountable and how to do that. And so one of my non-negotiables now, I've learned this one recently, and now moving forward is I have learned that by not holding people accountable to the standards that we set and to their KPIs for their individual position is so damaging. It is damaging to other team members. It is damaging to the firm as a whole. And quite frankly, it's damaging to me because I am then putting them above my own family, above my own goals, above my client, and above the collective. And that was really hard to learn because I would make all kinds of excuses in my head. Oh, well, this employee couldn't do it because they're going through a hard time at home. Or, oh, this employee couldn't do it. They're just trying so hard and they're just not hitting it. Or maybe I didn't give them enough training. Maybe I didn't give them enough coaching. Maybe I didn't inspire them enough. Maybe the values of my firm are just not, energetic enough. Maybe they need more policies and procedures. Maybe they need blah, blah, blah. And I took extreme ownership to extreme. Like I made it way too extreme where everything was my fault and nothing was about accountability for the other person. And so one of my non-negotiables now is accountability. I will make it so clear that these are the 3 to 5 things that you must do. And if you don't get to play ball anymore. And I really, really wish that I had done that before. So I'm wondering, for the two of you, are there any values that you learned through these hard times, through your graveyard of failures, that now defines how you move forward as a leader?
It's actually funny. I'll comment on what you just said, that extreme ownership part of everything is actually my fault. I feel like we fell into that trap recently where we were trying to own so much of the responsibility when in reality it was like, all right, dude, you got to start performing, right? But that hurt us for a while. I don't want to say overly extreme ownership, but like a little bit there hurt. But I would say, I don't know, the value, don't know, Eric, you want to go first? I'm thinking
I
that's
know this is a tough one. I think actually we could use a lot of improvement on this because we make a lot of exceptions. Myself, it's actually one of our biggest weaknesses right now is we make a lot of exceptions at our expense, time with our family's expense. So we have not been near as disciplined as we should be with having hard rules, I'd say. And maybe it's a good thing because it brought us here, sacrificed a lot, but you know, it can also be a really bad thing at times.
Yeah. I was gonna say pretty much well, I think extreme ownership is a really important thing that I think has got us here is because we've always felt and done like whatever it is our fault always. And really it is if you just examine every piece of it. And so that one I think has been one of the most important ones for us as far as like at least giving you control of your outcome is like, it's
Hmm.
all on us. At least we could do it. It's if it's our fault, we can at least fix it. So I think that one's been really important. I think lately though, where it's transforming into at this stage is just standards, really maintaining high standards and we're not good at this. So we're going to be continued, but maintaining standards and to your point, Chris, like it's hardcore accountability. Like this is the standard, you got to hit it or
Yeah.
sorry.
And I want to be clear, it's not easy.
No,
Like,
it's
I
the
can't
worst.
tell
I
you
hate
I
it.
figured out 100% the accountability game. I just telling you that I now am aware of it. And I still do believe in extreme ownership. That's probably the book I read every year in January. I'm not trying to throw away the concept, but I am trying to no longer make it an excuse for other people's bad performance. And that is where I had to kind of turn a corner a little bit, where I let other people have extreme ownership too.
Yeah. I think too, what we've been kicking around is like, if you understand, and this is in the context of employees, but you could apply it to whatever, but if you understand that they have goals and they have aspirations and it's your job as I guess you could say a coach to help them hit those goals. Well, my ownership duty is to hold you accountable to your goals that you told me. And I want to see you win. Like, I don't want to not see people win. So to me, it's more so, it is still extreme ownership in that, like, yeah, I'm going to help you hit your goals that you told me you want to
Mhm.
hit. But that comes with like getting them on the right way, which we haven't done well in the past, but now we do better of.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And one of the things I love about you guys is I do think you're excellent leaders. I've met your team. They all absolutely adore you. But it is our job to be a coach. I really believe that it is our job to provide resources and training and support and all of those things in hitting those goals. But at least for me, where I fell short is I also supplied excuses
Yep.
along with those
yep,
resources. And
totally.
that is what I'm focusing on and trying to learn to not do.
Almost so much extreme ownership that you enable other people. So
Yep.
Yeah.
been there.
I don't know if you ever read the Four
Jocko would be
Agreements, but
proud.
you become the savior, and the rescuer, not savior, the rescuer.
Yep.
I haven't
Yeah.
read that, but I've heard it's really good. Like literally today I heard that we should read that book. So that's funny that you
Oh, it's a
said,
phenomenal book. You definitely should read it.
dang.
I have a bunch of copies. I'll send you one. I really do. We did a book club at Z Family Law at one point, and so any book that we had at the book club, we have so much extra copies of in the library, and that is one of them because I do love
Yeah, I
that
need to
book.
read it. So if you got a few laying around next time you're here, I need one.
All right. So when you were going through those hard times, when you were going through everything during the pandemic, or you were like, oh crap, we bought this business that we thought was going to be really easy to do, and oh my gosh, no, it's not. What did you do to protect your mindset besides activity? We've already talked about activity. What did you do to protect your mindset? Did you listen to any music, read any books, any podcasts where there's, how'd you get yourself out of the funk and into the moving?
Well, Alex Ramosey's content helped us a lot because it made us realize that we're not crazy and we're not the only ones feeling this way, and that everyone has been through this. And anyone that's accomplished big things has been through these seasons. And like Elliot said, the 0 to 10 million people on Instagram that did it on the beach without working, that's rare, doesn't really happen. And most of the time, the way we're suffering through it is the way it was done for a lot of other people. And so that was very validating for us. Like Alex and Layla Ramosey, their content of what they went through, it helped us realize that, okay, it can be this hard. Not that you should make it hard on yourself, but it can feel like this. That's helped a lot.
Yeah, I think seeing what other people have actually had to do to achieve what you want to achieve, which is why I think social media is so it can be really damaging because you don't see what's really happening. But if you see it and it's normalized and you're like, oh, this is what I have to expect, then it makes it a lot easier. Because actually, Luis did this in one of his webinars too. I think he put an 8-figure business is like 0.04% of businesses, 0.04%. We're talking less than a percent. And if you go to Instagram, you think everybody's an 8-figure business owner. They're not, right? So like if you realize that that is the like extreme exception and you're trying to get there, then your day is not going to be normal. Your life is not going to be normal. It's going to be really, really hard. And not enough people, I think, talk about it because Because like you said, the shame, like they don't want to say that,
Yes.
oh my gosh, they just worked 16 hours and nothing moved forward. Or, oh my gosh, I've been working 16 hours for 3 years straight and I'm dying, right? Nobody wants to say that stuff, but I think that's
No,
what really helps. And so
but I will
protecting
tell you that's a
mindset was
large
just, I think if you know what to expect, it protects your mindset.
I will tell you that's a large part of why I created this podcast. So that there was something on the internet that you're that person scrolling, you're going through your hard time, whether it's your divorce or breakup or your business failure. And yes, I put them together because I represent a lot of business owners and they're the freaking same. And a lot of times those two things go hand in hand. And there has to be a corner of the world where you're talking about, yeah, we all sometimes suck and we mess up and we learn from it and we move forward. And sometimes we don't even mess up, but the world changes like a pandemic or a government shutdown or something else. But you will learn, you will pivot, you will figure out how to fail your way forward or you'll stop. But the
Yeah.
only way you're going to fail truly is if you don't keep going.
Yeah.
One
That's
thing too that reminds me of this, right, is like the social component, especially because we all go to the same conferences, right? And you look at these things, but it's funny because I talk to a lot of business owners on a daily basis. And so there's this one firm I was talking to and she's telling me her case values are way too low. She's been unprofitable for 3 months or 4 months or whatever, 6 months, like drawing in the red. And I call her to follow up with her. And the answering machine is, we've won this award 3 years in a row. And we've done this award and this award. And they're part of, some of these organizations. I'm like, well, this is the problem is in these places, they're celebrating these top line numbers. And in the background, the people are dying and going crazy and they're not normalizing it and then finding a solution to it. Right. It's not that everyone has to sit there and say how bad things are, but I think understanding that it's okay to say I'm not doing well is really the important part. And not enough people talk about that. And so that I think if you know that's coming, which if you're a business owner, it's just okay if it's normalized, then it doesn't feel shameful because you're like, oh, everybody went through this. So that's why watching those people's content really helps.
I agree. I love watching those people content and I love calling out my entrepreneur friends and be like, tell me a bigger mistake than this one I just made, or tell me a bigger disaster than this one that just happened. And those that will take that phone call and will share with you, man, that changes everything about your own mindset and your own feelings.
yeah.
All right. So we're wrapping up to the end. So I want to have for anybody who is sitting in that moment of, oh crap, I just lost our only client and now what to do? Or, oh crap, I signed up for this predatory business loan, been there, done that. And I really regret that life choice. Or I have to choose between payroll and paying myself. And oh, wait, even to make payroll, I have to take money out of my own savings. What do you want to say to that person?
One question that's helped me a lot lately, because even now, and actually when you get bigger in business, not to flex that we're bigger in business now, small problems are a lot bigger. When you have 35, employees, like a small slip can have huge consequences. So it almost gets a little bit bigger. But one of the things, it's another, again, I've quoted him like 100 times, Alex Ramosi thing is, if it's not going to change what you're doing tonight, who you're doing with, and like who you're eating dinner with tonight, or what you're eating for dinner tonight, then it's not really impacting your life. So if I lose a client today, I'm still going to go have dinner with my wife tonight. I'm still going to go see my family right after that. And so everything is still normal. And so it didn't really impact my life. And so that's a big reframe in the context of business. That's helpful. There are things outside of business, really bad things that could happen that can influence those things. And those are a lot harder to cope with. But since, a lot of our discussions have been around business, is even when bad things happen, if they don't really change your life, they're not really that bad, and you just have to get on offense. Is what we've always done. And like Elliot said, having each other as a sounding board, find your sounding board, has been the most important thing. Because luckily for us, we have been really blessed. Like we have really supportive family members. We have really like a really supportive wife. Like I could fail and lose everything today, and nobody in my inner circle would think any differently of me. And that gives me a lot of confidence to take big risks. It helps a ton.
I love that. What about you, Elliot? Well, for the person that is sitting there stuck right now, listening to us at 2 a.m. because they just messed something up and they can't see their way forward, what do you want to say to them?
No, I mean, I just like back to just go. You just got to go. I don't know what else to say, only because that's all we've done really is just, we just keep going. Like I said, if you can skip the part of the pity party, which I've done many, many times of like, if you could just shorten that phase a little bit, because you're going to go through it and then you're going to get back up. Hopefully you just skip right to going and then you don't think as much. I think thinking is what kills people, right? Like I just go. It
Yep.
sounds corny because I was literally in a Jocko podcast and I was making fun of him. I'm like, come on, man, what kind of advice is that? But then I thought about it and it's like, really is good advice because they're like, well, what do you do when you're doing this? He's like, go. I'm like, cool, Jocko. We're not all Navy SEALs. But
Yeah.
I think just the action, there's a Jeff Bezos quote too, is those stressful things, stress comes from, or was it anxiety, comes from the things that you haven't done. If you just do, you stop feeling the stress. And so it makes it easier.
Well, yeah, it's interesting you say that. I just saw a Layla Hormozy reel about that anxiety about things you haven't done is your brain protecting you because your brain isn't wired for progress. Your brain is wired to protect you. So if you haven't done it and you're anxious about it, that's your brain trying to protect you from a new thing that could be a threat. But your brain is not wired to push you forward, to progress you, to grow. And man, that one's been playing in my head for a while now.
Yeah.
I think it just becomes like a muscle that you get used to using after a while. In the beginning is probably hard,
Yeah.
but if you just skip to the part, that again, I'm not saying this for me, but that's what all the greats are saying, just go. And I mean, it seems to have worked for us. So that's all I
It
got.
was
We said, learn from people who've figured it out. Why recreate the wheel?
Yeah, and a reframe that helped us. It was very recent. You were there, Christy, in February through an event in Orlando for family law firms. And the day before that, the house that we rented out and 50 people were flying from all around the country to come be at. And we put a lot of money into this. The house was being pulled from us the day before. It was very stressful. That was probably, I told Elliot, I was like, I think this is like the most stressful thing that's happened to me in a while. And he's like, we are really lucky. That is the most stressful thing that has happened to us in a long time. Like,
That
if
is a good reframe.
that's the worst that's happened, we are very, very lucky. We are very blessed. So it was just an immediate reframe when we thought we're the world is falling apart for us. It was like, if this is the worst, I have a really good life. It's easy.
Well, if anybody wants to learn more about you guys or more about Empirical 360 or follow you somewhere, where do they find you?
Say, go to our website, empirical360.com, or check out our YouTube. We interview awesome people like Christy. So go watch her podcast there. That was a really good one. I've got good remarks on that one.
I will make sure I link all of that in the show notes. Thank you guys so much for taking your time to do this. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate everything you guys do for Z Family Law and my team. And I really appreciate your friendship and you guys telling me stories when I'm panicking or having a hard time and celebrating our wins when we do. You're working with us, but also your friendship really does mean a lot to me.
Twice.
Thanks for having us on. Really,
Thanks
really
for having us,
appreciate
Christy.
it.
And for everybody who's listening, if you are going through a hard time, I hope you learned from this episode is keep moving. Whatever you're doing, don't stay stuck. Just keep moving because no matter what, this is not the end.